We're live.
Okay.
It did pop up some setting stuff, so it might be lower quality. I don't know.
That's okay. Pointed at me. We're still setting up, so you'll get the real show in a few minutes. Stay live. It should be hearing through that.
Okay, so I need to be.
I mean, that is probably an option as well. Yeah, so you got a comment there.
Instead of having the guy off camera.
Yeah, that's fine
If
too.
you want that, you guys can borrow my phone. Just don't run away with it.
We'll keep this here anyway, just in case.
Okay.
So really, if you see bots, you should just be able to go in here
Yeah, I looked at the
and do that,
options
and
real quick.
yeah, block them.
Almost did it to Garrett just for fun. Can't do it, dude.
Oh, you sure can, you big. Yeah, oh yeah, he's in a mid. You physically can't do it for. Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's right. He can hear us talking about
Yeah.
it, probably.
Oh yeah, Garrett can totally hear us talking about him.
Yeah.
Can't you, Garrett? Yes, you can.
Hate that guy.
The microphone is live.
Just awful. Just the worst.
I disagree. I think he's absolutely wonderful, and you should thank your lucky stars to work for such a gentleman.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, look at all them up there. They're looking good. Yeah, looking real good.
Over in the creator stage, on the creator stage, we're on the creator stage, we're not inside, is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS 10-year anniversary special! Introducing the smart people all the way down yonder, as my father would say. Exactly. We have the game guy, as he calls himself. He also likes to travel, Dave Chapman!
Hello, everybody.
Wait. When did you call yourself game guy?
I said I was the game guy.
Oh.
I know the quote. That's what you always
I
call
thought
me.
you were the rat hole.
I am. The rathole.ca, but what do I do?
All right, keep going.
I do games.
We're already off topic. Of course, up next we have our artist and the smartest person up here, probably Melanie D. coming right now, just from Jedi Business, we have Jessica Womack.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us from another realm.
Yes. No, we have a lot of Jedi business, and I had to rush over, but we are currently safe. Currently is relative.
Yes. Just like time.
Exactly.
And finally, the man with literally no superlatives, because he wouldn't tell me, Christian Paisley! And we're out of time, so thank you for coming. Oh yeah, you wanna tell the people? You're gonna eat it? Don't eat the mic.
Don't
that
physically eat the mic. Just get closer to the mic.
So, it's important to know that we got here. How did we get to 10 years? I don't know what I was doing.
Oh my God, I don't know. 10 years just flew by. That was just incredibly insane. 10 years ago, I came up with this idea of, I purchased a TARDIS, a die-cast TARDIS, because I knew I would drop the thing like 100 times. There it is right there. There's an applause. Yeah, it's had its days of abuse.
That one's the famous one here.
It's true. That's the most famous of all the TARDISes here in Central Florida. The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. 10 years ago, I bought a TARDIS, and to officiate it, is that the word?
Sure.
Okay, we made that up. All right. 10 years ago, I hit a button that said create page group on Facebook, and this is where we are right now, 10 years later. I think 10,000 photos with that little TARDIS all over the place. The idea was, it was supposed to be a humorous thing where I would take a TARDIS, take it places the Doctor's never been. So the original pictures have it at like Publix or Home Depot or Lowe's.
His steering wheel.
Only classy places.
Oh, you saw that picture.
You sent me hunting for it.
Oh, okay. That's true. So years later, I had a friend, rest his soul, a friend by the name of Ken Spivey, who would later, Oh, some of you do, yeah. Yes, give him an applause. Yeah, that's for Ken Spivey. He started a thing called Time Lord Fest in Orlando, and for whatever reason, he liked what I had to say about Doctor Who, and he said, I'm going to have you on a panel. And the first panel he dragged me on was a panel called Doctor Who and Vampires. Well, there's only been one episode of Vampires, so unless the panel is as long as the episode, this was going to be a very interesting panel. And I did the panel, and that was the end of it. Next thing I know, other places like MegaCon, Florida SuperCon, Hoolanta, all other places were asking me to come out and help out, talk about Doctor Who. And that's how I guess for a better term, the legend began. And I still continue to take pictures of the traveling TARDIS wherever it went. And that's how everything started. 5 years ago, I was doing other podcasts, one called, a friend of mine named Ian, he runs Gallifrey Stands. And then later I was adopted by our good friend Garrett from Hanging with Web Show. And for just a short time, I was the co-host of the Hanging with Web Show. And next thing I know, Garrett just got me in his room going, hey, I think it's time. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I think it's time for your own podcast. And I've always told people, like, I always like to be the, what are you doing?
Off on your own. Shoot. I'm sick of you and Ed McMahon.
Nice. So later on, Garrett would say, you need your own podcast. And I thought, is he really putting buddy ears over my head?
No, story. Garrett said what?
Garrett just said, it's time for our own. And I've always thought of myself, and I'll explain to people, I always like to be the Bernie Taupin to the Elton John. I always like to be the guy who makes things happen. But the person who does the show, like Garrett, like Ian, is the one that really makes the show go. So finally, we had an episode, which was actually premiered the day before Jodie Whittaker became the Doctor herself, the 13th Doctor, which was that Saturday. And it was only 30 minutes on an audio podcast. There you go. Sonic me. Oh, wow. I smiled the whole time. Anyway, so after that episode, Gene Turnbow, who runs Krypton Radio, he's one of our producers. That Dalek is giving me a very weird eye.
Yep.
It only has one.
Are you saying
Make up your own joke here.
Is it the only eye weird? How can you...
Wait, can a Dalek give a side eye if it only has one?
It's
Like,
side eye.
The side eye now.
yeah.
I got the side eye.
We got very distracted very fast.
What?
Okay, hold on. Who here has seen our show before? Anyway, 1, 2, 3, a handful of you. Okay, so for the rest of you,
Again, I
we're
apologize.
she apologizes that we're insane. We get derailed very easily. So
Not all of us are ADD.
I think that's why people
Only
watch
three of us.
CSGO insane.
sorry, please continue.
Oh, thank you.
You started the
We're
podcast.
doing this plan.
So, yeah, I started a podcast, and then it grew to be a visual podcast on Facebook. The Facebook page now
Kids
today,
call it streaming.
they call it streaming.
Yes.
I'm okay, thank you.
Not visual podcast.
Well, you know what? A vlog would have been closer.
Oh, really?
Next, you're going to insult me about my Commodore 64. Is that where we're going with this? Okay, fuck.
Exactly.
Fix. Run. Anyway, where was I?
I don't know. Really quick, if you have any questions, we have a mic set up in the back. If you're watching via live stream, we also have the comments up here. So drop questions under the comments. I'll maybe read them out legibly. Legibly? That's not right.
See, the funny
I'm
part is,
dyslexic, so we'll find out what word I meant later on.
see, the funny part about this, a handful of people are already fans, so they already heard the story before, so they're like, whatever.
They're like, get past the 15 minutes.
So, yeah, so now I think we're up to, in our 10 years, we've gotten 61,000 Facebook subscribers. We've had at least 25 celebrities from Doctor Who, including Paul McGann, Sylvester McCoy, Sophia Miles. I want to make sure I got her name right. Sophia Miles. And we've just, and, oh, yeah. And,
Ashley Eckstein.
Ashley Eckstein, who is here.
Yeah.
Also, we had an individual who worked on Doctor Who, Simon Fisher-Becker. If anybody remembers the blue guy from the 11th, says, yeah, there you go. He is now joining the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. He actually goes around the UK on his banner, has the insignia of the Traveling TARDIS. So, I mean, this has been just an incredible ride from day 1 to year 10, and I wouldn't change 1 minute of it. It's awesome.
That's fantastic. You know, I've heard that you and Dave met in a weird way. Dave?
So
Yeah, you tell the story.
we have a little award here, the Spacey Award. And for those who don't know, I'm out here from Alberta, Canada. So I'm not exactly local. But at Space Coast Comic Con,
Is that another
the case is out. So I was way out of my home turf, if you will, for this. And I was up against Christian to get this award. And I'm just totally going to scrub it. Now that I've got a hold of it, I'm not giving it back. I'm scrub it out his name. So anyways, he won. I came in third after him and the Hanging with Web show. And from there, it was like, hey, you want to come on the show? Talk about games or something. Okay. So I came on a few months later. We set up a time to do an actual show all about Doctor Who board games. And before that went up, you brought me on for EG. No, the creepiest villain. Was it creepiest villain or creepiest monster?
Oh, creepiest villain.
Creepiest villain.
Scariest villain.
Scariest villain. And I ended up choosing Tang Li from the film because he was just quite happy to go along with the Master's evil machinations without thinking. And that's a terrifying thought for humanity. And later I actually got to meet EG and interview him a couple of times, so that was awesome. And yeah, I've gone from an occasional guest, an occasional side attraction, I guess.
And now we can't get rid of him.
And now you can't get rid of me. Now I'm you know, crossing continents to come and hang out and harass Christian at the booth all weekend.
And that was this weird concept because the three of our podcasts ran up against each other at Space Coast Comic Con for what they called the Spacey Awards at the time. So it would never even cross our minds that the three of us, especially Dave in Canada, we would somehow be working together after we competed that. So Dave came on my show, and the Hanging With show is our partner who produces the audio versions like iHeartRadio and all those places. So it was just a weird family thing.
You're the real life Avengers.
We're the real
You
life.
had your own films separately, and
Yes.
then we've come together to make the
There's a real life Avenger here.
Welcome to the team.
Okay.
Yay!
Do you want avenging? Are you up for avenging? All right, we're all avenging.
We're assembled.
Woo! Another from another universe, but still works. Melanie, how did
Yes, sir.
you come to the legend of Traveling TARDIS?
Basically, I have been an artist here at MegaCon for 10 years, and the same thing along with, I'm based out of Tampa Bay, so I've done all the conventions at Tampa Bay Comic Con, SuperCon, Time Lord Fest, which is the big one that I remember because it was very Doctor Who driven, and it was just one of those things where you start seeing the same people over and over because this is our family, this is our community, where we're, we get to see other convention goers, we get to see exhibitors, we get to see, just, it's just a great time. And the thing is, once in a while, you just start seeing the same people over and over again, and eventually, after, 5-7 years, you actually ask them what their name is, and go, okay, I keep seeing you, who are you, what is your name, and then, but that's what happens, eventually you'll get somebody's name, and then it kind of just rolled from there on, hey, do you want to talk Doctor Who? It's all right, I like talking, that sounds like fun. But here's the thing, we're going to start talking Doctor Who, but we don't have any episodes yet. All right, we can do that.
We're starting
from scratch, and that's kind of what the whole podcast started at, was we didn't have a doctor just yet. We had just heard about Jodie, so here we are.
And here's the funny thing about conventions, being on the opposite side, being in the vendor side or the exhibitor side. We don't, as funny as it seems that we all work together, we don't even see each other for most of the time. We'll be behind our booths, and then we won't do anything else. And then, like Sunday, we're spending like 1 hour running around the convention trying to buy stuff. So, Melanie and I were at conventions, we never even crossed eye to eye. And then just one day, she came over to me and just, I saw you on, you had that TARDIS thing, and I asked her to come on to the podcast, and lo and behold, that's how things work. Same thing with Dave, and then we
met online.
We were competitive podcasters for just a brief moment. Now we're just joined forces, so it's kind of funny how just the family of conventions kind of works out.
It's just like Batman and Superman. We're going all over the multiverse, kids. Jessica, how did you join the Traveling TARDIS?
I have no clue. That is a very good. You were asking them, and I was like, "Oh, okay, they have an interesting story."
There's lots of alcohol involved.
Oh, I don't know.
At first.
No, I think it probably is because, I'm a cosplayer, and one of my main cosplays that I've done is River Song. So I constantly come to the conventions as River Song with the hair and all the outfits and everything. And, kind of how Melanie was saying, I'm a part of a group that, we've got an 11th Doctor, a Clara, 13th Doctor, we're not an official group, but we just all met at conventions and we're like, well, look at this, we've got the cons, we've got, So we just all went to conventions all the time hanging out. And of course, Christian's over here with this TARDIS and he's like, hey, I need a picture of you guys. A year after, well, not even a year, convention after convention, because of course there's 6 conventions in a year. And so, obviously had those in-depth conversations about Doctor Who and got to know Christian just as a friend, convention friend. And then later on, he was just like, hey, you have ideas and thoughts and you talk Doctor Who a lot and you're a cosplayer. I'm thinking of starting a talking show. Podcast, as the kids say.
The kids call it streaming.
Streaming, yes.
No, that's podcasting.
And he was like, would you be interested in joining? And I was like, I talk, so.
It really does sound like I was forming the Avengers.
Yeah, it was like he picked us out each. It was like a vendor and a gamer and a cosplayer, and all together we came together to form this crazy group. And as they were saying, we did the Jodie was coming out, and we're like, dude, let's review each episode, let's get your thoughts on it, and this is how we'll kick it off, and then it's history at this point.
What I was going to say is that after Jodie's run, and remember how Jodie's run has been 5 years, but there's been 3 seasons. So you go, okay, well, what on earth have you guys been talking about through that? And because we all come from the convention kind of space, we've had episodes where we've talked about cosplay. We've talked about your comic convention, startup kit of what things you need to be bringing.
Survival mode for the convention. We do have one of those. Go look it up. We've got describing the convention and all the tips and tricks for people who come. Point out, hydrate. Everyone drink water.
And eat.
And eat. Yeah,
Says
blood
people,
sugar.
none of us have any water up here at all.
That's because you guys are slacking.
Thor's got, okay.
Thirsty Thor's.
Where does that come from?
Mine's with my lightsabers.
Why is it
so-
here?
Yeah.
When we started with the panel, one of the questions that I had to, think about, there's a billion podcasts out there that geek out on Doctor Who, so what is yours so different about? And I finally come to the conclusion that we're going to have a weekly podcast. We need something to talk about. So there's a lot of things about Doctor Who that's about Big Finish audios that we've come across. There were convention things. There's that thing, that virus thing that came out, a couple of years ago and is still around with us that we decided to talk about. Nisha, who's a registered nurse. She's going to kill me if I get this wrong. She's an ANRP. And we brought her on to talk about what's happening.
Nisha's group, Diversity Geek, is over
Diversity Geek
not
is
far
here.
from us. So if you see Diversity Geek down at the far end, high 2000s, I think, that is her company. She's still out in California, but she does have some representatives here. Go check out the
And it's
amazing
all
things
about
they do.
nerdy stuff and mental health, which is beautiful because, we're all nerds, which means, we all have issues. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
I love the correlation there.
I mean, am I wrong, though?
Correlation or causation? Is it
Am I...
because I'm a nerd that I have problems, or am I a nerd because I have
Because I have problems. It could go both ways. I mean, I might be speaking I might be projecting. Sorry. Is that TMI?
Anyway.
It's a really good organization. So
Very good.
FYI.
We got off. Yeah, we got off. No, that's why. Having said that, what I wanted to do is every Tuesday night, it felt like we were coming to a Doctor Who panel. And when we decided to go on StreamYard, we were doing Facebook, we were doing Twitch, and I think we were doing one other. I can't think off the top of my head. It wasn't YouTube at the time. No, we did YouTube. It was with Hanging Breath.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to give was every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, come on, and we would talk about something Doctor Who-wise or something topic that we thought was important and relevant to talk about to Whovians. And we went deep. We went into issues like Nisha's, with Diversity Geek, with mental issues that sometimes reside in the geekdom. How to handle yourself at a convention, bullying, anti-bullying. Yeah, Simon Fisher-Becker, the gentleman I mentioned before, he came on an episode and he told us our experience. He actually was attacked and physically, hurt. If you see him at conventions, you see him in an electric wheelchair. That's what they did to him. And it was, it's painful to watch this. But the great thing about geekdom is, for me, it's no limits. And there are no boundaries. And we're all in this together, so the quote says. And as Whovians, I love it when I can actually geek out with somebody who comes to my booth and spends a couple hours with me just talking to me about Doctor Who, one of their favorite things. Because when I grew up, Doctor Who, it was not a special thing. I mean, you couldn't tell your friends in high school that you were a Whovian. For those of you growing up, am I right? Yeah. I mean, that was the hardest part, is when I grew up, I actually cosplayed Doctor Who once in my high school, and the kids laughed at it. They go, Doctor Who? And I put that outfit back in the closet and never saw the light of day again. But today, Thomas, when I go around, you see people wearing scarves, they're wearing bow ties, they're wearing feathers.
It's mainstream now.
It's mainstream. So the kid that had to put his stuff away in the closet all those years ago, he gets to come out, join those kids who are walking around in a convention, having a good time. And, what did you just do?
You make it hard. I mean, 2 hearts.
Oh, the hearts. Okay, I'm sorry.
We're Time Lords.
I just saw hands go up and I didn't know what was going on over here. But the main thing is that my inner child who was stuck in the closet now gets to come out and play with the other kids. And he sees the other kids who could not cosplay the Fourth Doctor, maybe in some instances. They have a place to go. They have a place to geek out. They have a place to have fun. And I love the convention side because there's no limitation. You can see the Fourth Doctor playing soccer with Captain Kirk, and Darth Vader comes in and steals the ball. and stitches, running passages. This is the stuff because there's no limitation when you're in it, heart and soul, with what you believe in and share with others. There's no limit and there's no end, and it's an incredible feeling. And I'm sure when you go to a convention, you feel that every moment that you walk around.
Yes.
Are we wrong? I'm sorry. Are he wrong? Are he wrong? All right, so
There was some applause.
they agree. They agree. Everybody else? So how did everyone find Doctor Who? We'll go to Christian last.
That is traditional.
That is traditional. So let's start with Dave down there, because he's looking at me like he has an answer.
Yeah, I found it as many people of a certain generation did through PBS. I mean, same as probably half the people sitting in our audience right now. Being in Canada, it was still US PBS out of Spokane. Yay, for being out west. But I never really paid attention. In fact, for many, many, many years, especially during that dark time where there was no Doctor Who, and to this day, I still mix it up with the Tomorrow People because they were back to back often, and the production quality was so similar in a lot of points that just in my head they're almost the same thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then eventually, okay, the new one came out. Well, it was not a good timing for me. I didn't really fall into it until, basically Matt Smith came back around, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start watching here. This is a good jumping in point. And I enjoyed it. And then I meet Kristen. And now I'm here.
Fast turnaround.
Yeah, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, do I think I would be sitting on a Doctor Who panel in Florida? I would have laughed at you. I play board games, and I talk about them. And I've got an entire page of Doctor Who games now. I've got stuff coming from the UK. I just got a shipping notice this morning. The Warlord Games is sending me a game that you can't get in North America because they don't have the licensing here. So if you want to learn more about that, right around your Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, or as we call it in Canada and the rest of the world, Thursday, yeah, weirdos. Right around that time, we usually will do a show all about board games, things you can go out and buy, and I will definitely be featuring Exterminate on that one, and Don't Blink, and probably something else that'll find.
Melanie, what is your Whovian origin story?
My Whovian origin story is I remember watching it with my dad when I was like toddling around, so probably PBS. I'm small, probably, like pre-kindergarten kind of thing. And there was this weird guy with a long scarf running around, and for some reason back then, these guys were like the scariest things I had ever seen in my life. Yeah, she's nodding. Yeah, I was never trying to go. Didn't know what anything was, but I always remembered that the Scarf Doctor was always, he was jovial, he was eclectic, and it was just it's always been a very nice memory for me because it's something I remember watching with my dad and enjoying. Now we're going to fast forward to, I would say about it was on the 50th that I started kind of getting back into it because I had friends trying to tell me, you need to get back into Doctor Who. Oh, it's completely different. And then Netflix had it. I figured, I can do this. Watched Rose, liked it. Started going through, and then the monster started farting. And I went, no, this isn't for me.
Well, that's a reason to watch a TV show.
It was too campy. I was like, I can't do this. This isn't my thing. But then I had other people go back and watch. Just go back and watch. So I ended up watching the 50th. Had that moment where I see Tom Baker making his little cameo. And I went back again and persevered and realized, oh my Lord, there's some Ninth Doctor episodes in there that are absolutely astounding. And I just kept going and going and going, and here we are. That's my origin story. I kind of remember it, and then now it's a nice, fun place to be.
Resident Jedi.
story. So I was on Tatooine. No, I'm kidding. I was visiting Tatooine. Dathomir doesn't get signal, please.
Stealing the Wi-Fi from the Ewoks.
Dathomir does not get signal there. We don't get the holonet. No, so mine is actually, I had trouble getting into Doctor Who. I had a friend in college, and she was just like, oh my gosh, I discovered this new show. It's amazing. You've got to watch it. And she was showing me and my roommate, Rose, and I fell asleep. And I was like, this is not my cup of tea. Like, I usually can stay awake through things, and I was like, I know it's like finals and stuff, but like, no, I totally fell asleep, and I was like, this is boring. And so then they tried to get me to watch another episode, and they were like, no, it gets better, I promise. And I was completely distracted, could not pay attention to it whatsoever, and I am not ADD or ADHD. I was just, did not hold my interest whatsoever. And I was like, just not for me, it's fine, you enjoy it, that's great, have fun. 2 years later, my roommate, that same roommate that had been introduced, is watching Doctor Who as it's coming out. And it was The Impossible Astronaut. And she was on the couch watching this with her earbuds in, and she is like very much invested in it as it's coming out. And I was trying to be a butt of a roommate, and I plop next to her on the couch, take her earbud out, stick it in mine, and I start watching. Right as, spoilers, something happens on the beach. So I then looked to her, and I was like, so did that actually happen? And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, so is he actually like, she was like, I don't know. And I was like, how do you not know? Like, isn't this like his show? Like, how do you not know? Like, and she was like, I don't know what's going on. Everything is changing, and I don't know what's going on. And like, she's overly emotional, and I'm just being like, whatever. Like,
as a good roommate does.
Of course, right? And so like I just kind of like gave her her earbud out, and I was like, all right, well, good luck with that. And I like walked away. And so like the next week, when the next one came out or whatever, I came back to her and I was like, so did you find out if they were actually? And she was just like, I'm still figuring that out, because it's like mid-episode, and she's watching it this time without earphones on. So I happened to walk by the couch, and I watch as this little girl starts having regenerative energy come out of their hands. And I was like, how can she do? I thought he was the last, so how is that possible? She was like, I don't know. And I was like, but everything you've told me and I've picked up from just being your roommate, like, that doesn't make sense. She was like, I know it doesn't make sense. I don't know what's going on. And I was like, okay, just interested. You know, and then she keeps watching, and then she finally watches an episode, and she was like, so I found the answer. Because it kept bothering her. I was like, did you find out about the little girl? I want to know about the little girl. Like, what's going on? And of course, there's filler episodes in between there. And finally, she's like, so I found out what happened. And I was like, okay. She was like, so I'm going to show you an episode. I'm like, all right. So she sits me down, and I watch Let's Kill Hitler. That was my first full episode of Doctor Who that I didn't fall asleep in. I absolutely loved it. And from there on, I then had questions of like, okay, so how did this happen? And so then she ends up showing me Doctor Who in River Song order. Because all of my questions were about the little girl. So I kept watching them, and I was like, okay, so if this happens, so what happens next to her? And so we're going backwards in like this through the episodes. And she was like, okay, so I think this is where this happens. And so I ended up being introduced to the library. It was a very hard episode for me. That was a very different, everyone else got to watch that first, and I'm sitting there like, what is going on? Like, I knew this was coming because I watched America, but like, yeah. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. So yeah, so my introduction and my love of Doctor Who actually came, which is why I cosplay River Song, because I still get confused as to what order the episodes are. I'm like, that happened after that. And they're like, no, that was before that. And I'm like, oh yeah, well, that's for you. Got it. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, my introduction and love for Doctor Who actually came backwards and timey-wimey and everything. So
you need a diary or something to keep orders straight.
You know,
Just saying.
I have it, and yeah, I have a nice little blue one. I'll bring it one of these days to one of our panels. So yeah, but keep everything in order and make sure I'm not slipping
Kristen,
up.
you want to schedule that in now, or should we wait till we get back to the post?
Absolutely, right after, take her to noon for a weekend of that electroshock therapy.
Yes.
But we like Jessica. We love Jessica.
I'm quirky. I'm the quirky one. Right?
You know what's funny? You mentioned about Wibbly Wobbly as far as the story schematics, and this is actually one of the funniest things that happened at a panel was that I was talking about, you can appreciate this, Arthur, I was talking about survival. For anybody who doesn't know that, that's the 7th Doctor story. That was the last story of the 7th Doctor before it went off the air. As I'm talking about survival, a woman verbally stops me and says, "Stop. Spoilers." She stopped me in an episode that premiered in 1989. And she's just watching the series. And I'm sitting there going, I can't complete a thought.
Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
She's right. You can't do that. You got to be that. Yeah, earmuffs. So, like, that's the hardest part is because people who join in Doctor Who today, they start in the 2005. And when I go to conventions, I'll start talking about Classic Who. And they're like, I haven't seen that yet. I'm like, what am I supposed to say?
Go watch it.
That's their fault. I mean, I haven't watched
But only Doctor Who can do that. That's the thing. It's the only way.
Before we jump to Christian's Whovian origin story, because that's a 30-minute right there. If you want to ask questions, you can head to the microphone right there. Those of us watching live, those of you watching live, drop into the comments your questions. This is the 10th anniversary special of the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, and there's so many things to say in sentence. Christian.
It's painful. No,
Christian.
Stay one.
Take it away. What was your Whovian origin story?
Oh my God! Well, Arthur, I keep poking at Arthur because Arthur, nobody knows about this. Arthur is head, or at least, can I say head of? Gentleman right there. There is actually a club for Doctor Who Whovians out there, and they've been around. Am I wrong about this? You guys have been around for 40 years. Is that right? Because I joined you guys in like 90 something. So 40 years. There is a Doctor Who club in Orlando, and they meet once a month to just watch Doctor Who and geek out Doctor Who, and that is the gentleman there. So I'm very excited that Arthur joined us today. Everybody give him a round of applause. I think he's awesome. 40 years of a club, and they're called the Guardians of Gallifrey. You can look it up, check it out. If you live here locally, please check it out. They're fun to go out there. And if anybody knows Doctor Who, it's Arthur and the team out there. Having said that, I started my Doctor Who because Arthur and I think we can say, we're creatures of PBS. We're the kids of PBS. Yeah. So everything we knew was Tom Baker. Now, here's the thing about growing up, and full disclosure, I tell everybody to start with Robot. I don't remember. Do you remember your first episode? It was a John Pertwee episode, but it's kind of like one big memory now, right? It's kind of hard, because I don't remember. I just say Robot. Right. You learn backwards. So for the kids who come up to me and say, I love Matt Smith, he's my favorite third Doctor, I don't roll my eyes. And here's the reason why. When I grew up Tom Baker, watching him. And all I remember was he started at Robot, which was a really cool episode. He had Sarah Jane Smith, he had Leela, both Romanas, Adric, Tegan, Nissa. He falls off a tower, hits the ground, turns blonde, and because my PBS didn't bother buying the new rights, started all over again. So that was the end of Doctor Who for me. He turned blonde. So I guess they had some kind of one-day PBS drive where they went completely nuts, and then they go, oh, we have a special called The 5 Doctors. What? Wait a minute, oh yeah, Tom Baker's number 4. I'm like, holy cow.
Late, you say.
So coming in late in the game, in the 70s, watching Doctor Who on PBS, said, oh, hi there. There we go. So coming in late in the game, I feel for the kids who grow up and their first Doctor they think is the first Doctor. But when a kid comes up to me and says, and I wrote an article for this for Clownfish TV, it was, they came up and said, hey, Matt Smith is my favorite third Doctor. My response is, that is so awesome. Good for you. Let me tell you about my favorite third Doctor, John Pertwee. That's the response I want to see.
I believe we have a question.
I do.
Hi, what's your name?
Cara.
Clara?
Hi, Cara. Everyone say hi, Cara.
Hi, Cara.
Is it Cara or Clara?
Cameron, can we turn it up to see her?
How you doing? Welcome.
I'm
Thank you.
doing good. So first of all, I will say that in the 70s with Tom Baker, my brothers watched the show on PBS, and I did not like it.
You didn't like it?
So fast forward, my husband found the Christopher Eccleston reboot, and he watched part of it. He was like, "Oh, how can I get Cara to like this?" So he showed it to me, but as soon as Christopher Eccleston did the big grin, run for your life, I was just hooked. Now, the question.
Yes.
Your opinions of the last season of Jodie Whittaker.
Our opinions of the last season of Jodie Whittaker. Good night, everybody. Thanks for playing.
I was going to say, I just had a hard time following it myself, so I'm interested to hear other people's opinions. I love Jodie Whittaker. I think she's a great doctor, but we're used to having an episode, okay, and there is an end to the episode.
Right.
Maybe there's a 2 episode. And I was just telling my husband, I'm like, Amy Pond, okay, the Ponds, there wasn't overarching theme, but each episode had sort of a beginning and ending. And this last show, it just felt like every ending was more confusing than the last ending. But maybe that was just...
You're completely right. Every episode was more confusing than the last. So the base question is, what did we think about the last season of Jodie Whittaker? Okay. It's not Flux, right? It's...
Yeah, the Flux.
Yeah, Flux.
Yeah,
Flux.
Okay.
Flux. It is Flux. Okay.
With 1 X.
Everybody's looking at me for an answer. Dave, okay, Melanie. Yeah, Melanie. Go for it.
I think I'll go not just for the last season, but her whole arc, and go, she deserved better writing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I really did like Broadchurch. I know Chibnall can write. However, I don't think this was his cup of tea, even though he was a fan of sci-fi and Doctor Who. I just firmly believe that the episodes that, and we've reviewed all of them, the episodes that he wrote were my least favorites. The ones that he did not write, the Tesla episode, Rosa, the Demons of the Punjab, the
Village of Angels.
Village of Angels. Those, amazing. He didn't write them. I love them. It just, the ones that I just feel like her last season, we have an entire bowl full of spaghetti of loose plot points, and I don't know what we're going to do. So my wish is, please, I really wish that our TV gets like 1 episode with Jodie. Please let that happen. But that's it. It's I wish she had better writing.
To go off of, I know, we tend to agree on a lot of things. So I figured that I'd lump in with you. No, like, to agree off of that is, like, a lot of it is the writing. As you were saying, like, I feel like what they did, sorry to go a little Star Wars, but I feel like they Disneyed, Chibnall's Disneyed a little bit by trying to retcon the original stuff with a lot of the child, the lost child, the lost child.
Yeah, we don't speak about that.
Which is why she can't remember the name.
Yeah, that's why you don't speak. It's been erased. But the Timeless Child, where they went back and they were like, oh, I'm trying to do something completely new. Let me, like, retcon something that's kind of been established and to go my own direction. And then everyone was like, what the heck are you doing? He was like, oh, okay. And then he listened to the feedback of the fact that there was, the first season he did, there was a lot of disconjointed individual ones that had no overwhelming arc, had no classic villains. And so then the next season, he almost overly listened to the feedback and was like, okay, so it's only an overwhelming arc and we only have the classic monster. And it was like, okay, can we have a middle ground here where you, like, we want a little bit of, like, mush them together. So I think that was a huge downfall for a lot of Jodie's, because once again, love her. She picked up a lot of the writing inhibited that because she didn't get her I am the Doctor moment until way too late. And she, was really kind of given a little bit of a up and down personality because you could tell she wanted to go one way and the writing was dragging her another way. And I feel like they didn't talk about that, maybe? Or I don't know. I wasn't on set. But yeah, I think...
I wasn't on set.
Well, I mean...
Well, that was a downer, wasn't it?
If anyone at BBC is hiring. No, I'm kidding.
I'm not.
Yeah, but to your point, the overwhelming arc and then the individual episodes, I think it needs to be kind of how, Davies and Moffat did, of like, you have the over arc, but you have your individual episodes, you have both new stuff and old stuff, and like that's what a lot of us fell in love with, even with the classic stuff.
So, Christian, how was your interview with Andrew Cartmel about that?
We only have an hour left. Well, first of all, I just want people to know we're not ignoring you. We're actually streaming live on the YouTube, on the Facebook. So that's what we're doing. We're typing to people as they're watching us live. So everybody here is actually being seen live by the audience who's watching at home live. So everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Everyone wave at the camera back there.
Everybody, give them a wave. Let them know you're here.
Your hand.
So we're reading your comments, but if you got questions on the camera, please go ahead and put them in the chats, and we'll bring them up for you. But I've been reading your comments.
We do have a question.
Oh, we do have a question.
Joseph McGrail. How has America reacted to the news of the new Doctor? There's a new Doctor?
Number 14, yeah.
Shoot, you got one.
Right. Let's point out that our delightful moderator is not a Whovian. Yeah. And hopefully within the next hour or so, we will change that.
I love time travel.
There you go.
You could watch it in the order I watched it, and like, yeah.
Question, is it like Back to the Future? Is it a whole bunch of BS?
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff, yeah.
I love time travel.
It's a little bit more like your brother.
Dead.
Yes.
No. I'm just insane and all over the place.
Oh, yes.
And Loki was arguably some of the best Doctor Who in a few years.
Actually, can Dave and I finish the last question?
Yeah.
Okay, no, actually, Dave, you're next. About the Timeless Children.
No, it was Flux. We just got off
we told him his trigger word, and now he's on like the Timeless Child.
Short answer. I like everyone else, writing. Oh my God. I personally love the serialized stuff. I love that consistent, long story. I always have. Deep Space Nine is one of my favorite treks for that exact reason, because it's so tied together like that. Not that I don't love individual episodes. Unfortunately, yeah, I honestly think he had 8 episodes plotted out, and they gave him 6. Because what have you done the last 2 seasons? I think if he had 2 more episodes to work with, I think we would have had a very, very, very different Flux. But everything else has been said.
No one has my turn.
And the clock starts.
Are we putting on a timer?
Is here. So, Bucks. Actually, I'm just going to say this. As far as drama is concerned, Chris Chibnall's brilliant. He wrote Broadchurch. I think as far as a drama writer, he's got some really good skills. A little bit on the sleepy side, a little bit slow, but you know what? I like Broadchurch. And whatever that thing was on Fox that came over here, and I was like, okay, never mind. But I love Broadchurch.
Grace Point.
Grace Point, thank you. We don't talk about Grace Point. We don't talk about Bruno.
Americans. It was made for Americans, and it was terrible.
And it was terrible. And all they did was keep the same story and change the ending. But I digress. Anyway, when it comes to sci-fi, I don't think he doesn't have the chops for it. He just really doesn't. And when it came to the last series of Flux, there was only one episode I truly liked, and he didn't write it alone, as Melanie said. I forgot her name, but it was co-written. Yeah, I know. It's just usually on the computer right away with the names.
Village of the Angels.
But yeah, the Village of the Angels. I thought that was the best episode. Having said that, that doesn't say much. But I also noticed that he didn't write it alone, and I actually think, especially because she also wrote the Haunting of Villa Gotti, and that's one of my favorite episodes of Jodie's. Also not written by Chibnall, also co-written by her. And I think that it's as to her being a better writer. We'll get the name very shortly. Everybody's getting their phone. I'm surprised everybody in the audience is getting their phones out.
Who here has a better signal than me?
So I thought Flux was way too wibbly, timely, wimey. I didn't even know where to go with it. I don't know what was going on. I always thought the Tectoine story was rubbish because it did for what my friends call double down on the timeless children, and I just never thought that was a good device to begin with. The reason why, and that's why I said it was okay. Maxine Alderton, yeah, she was brilliant. She was good. I think it was just a little bit of a kerfluffle. It was just hard to make out. And in the end, it just felt like, okay, then the universe explodes, so she comes back and all of it's back again. It just didn't seem to pan out too well. I think Chibnall was trying to write a better drama than write a better sci-fi. Having said that, you could tell that there was something there and it wasn't fulfilled. It looked like it needed like another season to pan out. Also, the biggest crime, I think they just really didn't use Jericho too well.
Yeah.
I think Jericho should have been a companion. And that's good saying for it because we had the
whole
actor.
panel about that another day.
Yeah, we had Kevin McNally on the panel.
Oh, we've got one this weekend, isn't it? Who deserves a spin-off? Isn't that one of our panels this weekend?
That's one of our this is one of our weekend panels.
So we'll talk more about Jericho. I'm almost certain in that panel.
You're both right. We did have Kevin McNally on the show, but this is before. Well, no, it was after.
It was after.
It was after because he couldn't.
He
wanted to
tell
come
us,
on,
yeah.
and then he said he couldn't because he was busy and he couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
He says I might come back. I don't know. It was just like, oh, thanks. So, Kevin McNally is a talent that was just squandered. I think he should have been a companion from the first episode.
Yeah.
And I think you should have seen more of Jodie interact with Jericho.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
So that's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree.
And what was your opinion? No. So you have you said you got a question there?
Yeah,
you can pop it up on the screen and I'll edit it in after too.
We had a couple questions. We'll jump back to the first one from Joseph. How has America reacted to the new Doctor? I don't read the news, so I don't know how America reacts to anything. I assume bad.
I mean, there is certainly a contingent of people that we all know in whatever fandom you are sitting here thinking about that will hate absolutely anything that is not them. Just period. Whatever that them may be. And that's been... The underbelly of the opinion has been a very not ideal in a lot of those circles that we all know. But I mean, generally I think there's been a big more often than not, a positive, and sometimes that's just, yay, no more Jodie. And again, I love Jodie, and it's the writing, but not everyone will make that distinction. So it's been a mixed bag, I think, reaction. Better than most, I think, from what I've seen, a lot of the changes.
I would say that the announcement was on a lighter note. I think most American audiences, and I'm going to speak for everybody in the U.S. and say everybody went and saw it and went, how do I pronounce his name correctly?
Yes.
Because if you go on every YouTube that's based in the U.S., everyone, including us, because we've even asked some of our UK viewers, how do you pronounce this? And we were told Scooty. And we're like, no, it's Shooty. So I think that was the first.
Does everybody know about the 14th Doctor? Hands up for everybody who's excited about the 14th Doctor coming in. Yeah, there we go.
So we have Shooty got one.
Shooty got one.
So that was, I think, honestly, the most Americans were like, oh, we got a new doctor. How do I pronounce his name? Okay, I got it. All right, cool. And then we just got the barrage of every type of leak, whether you wanted the leak or not, or the news of what's going on. So, no spoilers.
I don't. There's a reason why it's not a vain reason that I don't watch other Doctor Who podcasts at times, mainly because I don't want to be influenced by them. But this was the first time ever I went on other Doctor Who podcasts because I was listening to see if anybody would pronounce the name correctly, and I listened to like 7 different podcasts, got 7 different interpretations. It's spelled N-C-U-T-I. So at the very beginning of my show, I was going like Nakuti, 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 and everybody says pronounce it Shooty, Shooty, Shooty. You know, like it took about a third of the way of the podcast to figure out how to pronounce it. I felt bad because that's a name, that's important to somebody, but I was just like, I could not even find the pronunciation, so I felt bad about that. But yeah, we're excited about this.
But if you are looking to improve it and actually pronounce it correctly, I don't think you can be held at fault for that, because everyone makes mistakes, and he does have a complex name to Americans. So the fact that you are looking to pronounce it correctly and you are altering that as opposed to going, well, I'm pronouncing it this way because it's spelled this way. Because some people will do that. Sorry, I'm not going to diss this country.
Twitch.
But some people would do that and say, well, we're in America, we're going to pronounce the way that it's spelled. So the fact that you are aiming to find the correct pronunciation and are now pronouncing it correctly, I don't think there needs to be an apology.
And it took you less than 10 years to do it, unlike some names. Cough, cough, Sophia Miles. So, Sophia Miles was the girl in the fireplace, Madame de Pompadour, and it was 10 years of Sophia Miles, not Sophia Miles. So he finally corrected himself on the show when we had her about a month and a half ago on the series. And she is an absolutely wonderful human being. Let me tell you, that episode was one of the most ridiculous and crazy fun shows that we've done in a very long time for various reasons. And we will have a short clips of it. We have the Bits of the TARDIS, which are some of the shows that I have edited down from 90 minutes to vaguely 10. So that will be going up next Thursday on the YouTube channel. So you can, if you are not already subscribed, come by the booth. You even have a QR code. You don't even have to look us up. Hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
You also go on the YouTube channel, not right now, but you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sophia's entire episode is on there.
Is there,
for you to watch from beginning to end. And you hear a lot about people having like blooper reels and stuff like that. With the exception of Sophia, the entire show is a blooper reel.
Yeah.
Us just going like, whoops, getting the name wrong, eating cookies for 2 commercials.
I was hungry, and I didn't know he was coming back from a commercial break so quickly.
He wasn't, so she was eating cookies. I was completely backlit because I was doing it from Las Vegas. So you want to see this, not me.
And I felt so bad because I think Sophia, when I was rewatching it, Sophia looked like we were laughing at her, and she didn't get it until you brought out the cookie. It was something.
If you think we're crazy now, that was interesting.
We have 2. One is his name is Tom Kosak. Asked, "Is that Arthur? The back of Arthur's head I see?" Yes.
Yes, it is. He didn't hashtag it?
He did not. No, there was a hashtag group earlier.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Tom
you need to spray it.
He said he was in the shower, and then that's a different broadcast.
And a little glare on the YouTube channel.
From Fernando Reaper. Hopefully he doesn't kill us. What happens to Doctor Who's daughter?
Hits a moon, dies. Bye-bye.
No.
Spoilers.
Which one?
Ooh.
Yes, all of them. Is anyone alive?
Well, I know Georgia Tennant, when they announced Shooty got one, on her Twitter, she had wrote, "Hello, Dad," which I think she always has tendency of doing. Is whenever there's a new doctor, she'll say, "Hello, Dad."
Yeah.
She might have said, "Hello, Mom," I'm not sure.
But it also still said, "Hello, Dad." I don't know.
Yeah,
for a little bit there, Thomas. What happened is, at the end of, there was an episode called The Doctor's Daughter, and she leaves the planet, she gets in a rocket and takes off. So from everybody's perspective, it looked like the rocket hit the moon that she was going to. So that became suddenly social media canon that she died hitting this moon up there.
No, somebody had asked Moffat, and Moffat said,
Moffat
"Oh
said-
yeah, he just
Yeah, she just hit the moon.
She just hit the moon." And then I think she was like, "What? Sir? No."
Or you could listen to Big Finish Audio, where there's a whole several sets of Jenny's adventures. Up to them.
All right. So we've traipsed across all kind of watching orders. So let's break down your top 5 favorite rank. Not break down, rank your top 5 doctors. Yep. I enjoy.
Are we splitting? Let's ask the audience because you don't have a clue. Should we split this up as like? Should we just do it all of them, or do we want to rank like new, olds, all of them together? Oh
Because
goodness.
5 would be half of them, so we'll almost half. I can't.
Longest episode ever.
Ew. So you're saying rank your top 5? That's what it's saying.
Top 5.
Okay. But you could do that, Pat. Like just saying the name, not why.
Yeah.
Just the.
That's the name.
Can I do the generic one when they're all the same person, so not one is bigger than the other? No, I can't do that. Oh, thanks.
Okay, so I used to say that, and then I was watching an episode backwards, and I was like, why is he doing? Yeah, I grew up. I didn't grow up with him. Started with 11 and went to 10, and when 10, I was like, why is 10 doing that? That's weird. And I'm like, oh, I was expecting an 11 response. Oh, they're not the same person. Cool. Like they are, but they're not.
Are they variants?
Yeah. No.
No.
So
Bravo, sir.
That's what it sounds like.
it does sound like that, doesn't it? I came up with mine, and they're still thinking.
I did mine in my head and didn't have a piece of paper. So
Yeah, but
I've got mine. Just going to unsubscribe when I get mine.
4, 10, 11, 8, 9. 8 because of Big Finish is a lot. There's a lot of Big Finish in there, and that's why he goes up higher. And 9 would be number 5, only because we're just starting to get Big Finish. I tend to like the new Who more than classic Done.
Oh.
fair enough. And because I'm an idiot, I'm actually changing mine just slightly. So I said 7, 3, the Fugitive Doctor.
What the heck is
I'm going to
F?
throw that at her. War Doctor. I said 11, but my brain was silly because I would definitely put 8 ahead of 11. Honorable mention being 12 and Peter Cushing.
Oh, yes.
Jess.
Oh, you guys. You
They just did it.
Oh, right. Sorry, I was.
Hi, welcome to the show.
I had my next nap.
We're live.
We can edit that out right now. I'm kidding. So
I can, or I can edit in the points where like the really close-ups of you are looking like that. Yes.
just like that. Oh,
That
okay.
is where
is embarrassing
I'll be the one
us
doing
right
the
now.
editing.
Lovely.
Yes.
So my top 5, it would have to be my first. 11, 10, 6. Love 6. 12. How many have I done? 2, 3.
Well,
I'm going to say 12, Peter, and then I'm going to have to go with the War Doctor. Yeah. Well, because he doesn't define himself as that. So that's a middle.
Specifically not.
Is he a 0.5? Wait, do I get another 0.5?
Sure, take it 0.5.
I can't think of the
If I get a 0.5, I'm throwing the curator in there.
Oh my gosh.
You knew I was going to.
Yeah,
You knew I would
I'm
do
surprised
it.
you didn't to begin with.
We're still not sure what we like.
But I am.
Christian.
Arthur's looking at me intently, like, shut up, kid. Of course, you never forget your first. Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor, of course, is going to be on the list. He quickly became my favorite out of the gun. As soon as I got back past his first series, Peter Capaldi is my second favorite Doctor. Once you got to Rock and Roll Doctor, that was it. I wish he started Rock and Roll Doctor. I wanted to see that wily hair, guitar playing guy riding on his fish tank, saying "dude," and they had like Bill and Ted walking like "dude."
Minus the Sonic
That's what my
sunglasses.
crossover will be. So excellent, yes. Third Doctor, Matt Smith. I got to give it to Bowtie guy. He just, and I think a lot of people are saying the same thing because one of the criticisms I see online is with Shooty is that he's young, he's around the same age as Matt, and he hasn't really done much. And I said, well, I can also say that about Matt Smith, and Lee blew us all away. He had a very great dynamic about the way that he handled his doctor. That I mean, at the start he was just a little bit slow, but once he got with the Ponds, once Matt felt comfortable with Arthur and Amy, and you could tell they could work together. It was just a blast. And then throw in Alex Kingston. Holy cow! Yeah, that's a beautiful salad. So Matt for 3.
Gunshot of a show.
Only 2 left. 9th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, because I do love that PTSD guy. I'd love to see how the Time War damaged him, and it was Christopher Eccleston who brought Doctor Who back. Let's give it to him. Whether you liked him or not as a doctor, he brought it back, and he brought it back in a way that people follow him now as people follow Tom Baker. When everybody thinks on an international scale about Doctor Who, what is the image? It's always the guy with the scarf. And everybody's followed him since. I think everybody has followed Christopher Eccleston, and that's the case. Here's where everybody is going to, and I was surprised that one of my co-hosts mentioned Colin Baker, because he got his reprieve in Big Finish.
Yes.
He finally got the stories that he deserved. It finally got, the coat that he had that was widely colored was solid blue now. And instead of having the manic, Melanie Bush finally became a computer specialist, not a tomato soup girl, not a workout girl. She finally got the reprieve. And when you give Colin and Melanie Bush, Bonnie Langford, you give, and he's had some great companions. Who's the companion that recently died in real life? I can't think of it. She's the elderly companion. The one, Maggie Stables. Yes. The online, the companion that finally took the 6th Doctor and calmed him down and made him the way he was. We finally got to see the 6th Doctor we should have seen on TV, played out in audio. And now it was just a beautiful thing. So, yeah, as much as people diss on 6, I put him to my top 5 because Colin Baker is an incredible actor if you give him the stuff he needs. The Holy Terror is one of my favorite Big Finish. Come on, it starts off almost Monty Python. His companion is a shape-shifting penguin. How much more do you need in this story to go completely nuts? And the whole story is about this civilization who worships the shape-shifting penguin and the Doctor finding out what's really going on in the society. And it's one of those stories that I think was written beautifully by Rob Sherman. It takes something that is so wonderful. You think it's going to be one thing, and by the time you go on this roller coaster ride of Doctor Who, when you get to the end, it's heart-crushing. But it's one of those stories that I love best about sci-fi, Chris Chibnall. It leaves you talking after it's over, and in a good way.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a lot of his stuff with talking after, just not necessarily positively. So, of the people that are here, how many of you guys have actually listened to some of the Big Finish audios? Only a couple. So, have you heard of Big Finish audio?
You haven't?
Okay, we've got at least a couple of nodding heads. That's good. So, Big Finish audio is based out of the UK. They have more than just Doctor Who, but they have taken Doctor Who and probably have more episodes in audio form than there are on television. The 8th Doctor has years and years of brilliant stories. Paul McGann is actually, if you count Big Finish, the longest running Doctor, which is great because he started very early with that. And the 6th Doctor really gets redeemed. Melanie Bush gets redeemed as a character. She's no longer just some twit who screams, screams.
How dare you call Bonnie a twit?
Her scream would leave a horror queen green with envy. And it's just...
Wait a minute, wasn't that true? John Nathan Turner told Bonnie, you have to end, when they end the cliffhanger, when you end with the scream, she had to hit a certain note with the scream. Was that correct? I swear that's documented somewhere. Yeah, every time there was a cliffhanger and Bonnie screamed at the end, they would tell her to hit a certain note to hit it, or the highest note. I was just like, okay.
But the point being, they're amazing stories, and they've taken a lot of really great characters. Megs, who was a background character in Greatest Show of the Galaxy. She's the weirdest werewolf ever. But, and she becomes a full companion for Sylvester McCoy, and it's some great episodes. So definitely look up Big Finish Audio. They've got freebies, they've always got sales. We've got lots of interviews with people from the shows. We've got reviews of the shows. Sadie Miller was on the show, who took over from her mother, doing Sarah Jane.
Sweet girl. Sweet.
Amazing, yeah. Benji Clifford is one of the producers, been on. Lots. Big Finish. If you can't watch Doctor Who on TV, listen to Big Finish. You can find a lot of their stuff even on Spotify. So by all means, check that out.
And the episode that you're mentioning, first of all, Sadie Miller is the daughter of Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith in the Fourth Doctor series, and she passed away after her series, The Sarah Jane Adventures. Her daughter has now taken over the audio version in Big Finish, and she's really spot on. The thing is that there was a reason why Benji was on the show. I just happened to come down with a sinus infection, and I called upon Benji. Benji Clifford is actually sound designer. I don't have it now. Get him. Yeah. Benji Clifford. That's why I got my own microphone. So I asked Benji, who's the sound engineer, to come on the.
Yes, there we go.
To come on and host the show, and I actually sat on the panel on the StreamYard chat. I was told when I went to the doctors that they did that swab test, that early swab test, and they said that you don't have the coof, but we want to check later to see if you do have it. So they did another test and sent it out away. So 2 days later, I called them up and I said, "Do I have it?" They go, "No." So fine. So we did that episode that weekend. The Monday thereof, I get a call from the doctors going, "You had it." So I did an entire episode with the coof. That was the episode. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever YouTube doesn't want us to say about it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the one. I just thought that was interesting.
We have another question from the stream, from the online video vlog. Coming from Pop, GW Palmer of HWWS. In all of these 10 years, what is the most interesting photo or place captured by the Traveling TARDIS?
Stay tuned, because I'm taking the TARDIS with me for the next month.
I wish I could show the photo, but I'm sure all three of you would agree with me. Peter Capaldi's photo with the Traveling TARDIS, hands down. The interesting part about this particular photo was when I went over there. There's a great story about this. It was at a convention. Peter Capaldi was there. Now, I tell people that Peter Capaldi is a fan of the fans. He loves the fandom. That's one thing you'll understand if you ever meet this guy. So, Peter, I take the Traveling TARDIS to him. If everybody knows what it does, I give it to people, take pictures, pose with it. So I give it to Peter, and Peter goes, "What am I supposed to do with this?" I was like, "What you do best." That's exactly how I phrased it. So he goes, "Okay." And he took the picture, and it's probably one of the most viral pictures on the Traveling TARDIS. It's just him doing this. Not only is this probably the most famous picture, but I at least know two people have made artistic renderings. They've painted pictures of this picture. I just like a little credit, please. I don't mind you, but I told him, I just said, you guys are great. Can you just give me credit that you took it from the photo? Tag it. Just give me a little bit of credit. Give Peter and I a little credit out there. But the mere fact that two people painted this picture that I took, that to me, that's what the Traveling TARDIS is. Yeah, they're amazing pictures if you ever see them.
Also, they give credit, we give credit, and like
exactly.
I don't know where it come from.
Somebody will go like, you didn't give me credit for this, and then I tag it right in there in a second if they tell me.
I think one of my favorites, two other favorites, is Sylvester McCoy and his almost puppet master one. Both of these are in the theme opening credits, so if you do watch the show, you will get to see us, even if you can't find them on the Facebook page. But also Eric Roberts and Paul McGann, kind of fighting over it.
Yeah, there's a picture. There was a convention in South Florida. It was Eric Roberts and Paul McGann were sitting next to each other for the TV movie. I think at the time it was like the 25th anniversary.
I think so, yeah.
And strangely enough, nothing against Eric, but Paul had a line and Eric didn't. And then it flipped. Eric had a line and Paul didn't. I just said, Paul knew about the Traveling TARDIS. He loves it. He knows about it. He's been on our show too, and he knows about the Traveling TARDIS. And I said, Paul, what would it take to get Eric and you to fight over this thing? And surely enough, they did it. So Paul goes over, come on, Eric, let's do this. Let's do this right now. And Eric's like, all right. And he just stands there and holds the TARDIS. Paul is just geeking out, trying to pull it away from Eric. And it's just a beautiful photo. But you also mentioned Sylvester McCoy. There's another photo that I love. It's him holding the Traveling TARDIS in front of Atlantis at NASA. Thank you, Dan Harris, for that. I got to take him on a tour of NASA with a bunch of other Hoovians. I had that privilege from a gentleman by the name of Dan Harris. And I got to have him stand in front of the actual space shuttle Atlantis holding the Traveling TARDIS. So
did anyone recognize him?
Geek out of that. What's that?
Did anyone recognize Sylvester McCoy? Because I love the story.
We had to take. There was a group of like Doctor Who classic celebrities. There was Daphne Ashbrook, Simon Fisher Becker was there, not Paul McGann, but Sylvester McCoy was there. And I took Sylvester to the restaurant, the lunch bay. And Sylvester was just aimlessly walking around. He was looking at the menu. He kept walking back and forth the restaurant. And off to the side on the table, there were these two girls that were staring at him the whole time. And I had walked by the table myself, and the girls grabbed me and go, is that who we think it is? And without skipping a beat, I go, yes, that's Jodie Whittaker. So but I was just like, I'm walking around NASA, nobody knows who these people are.
Of all the places not to recognize sci-fi celebrities, what?
Engineers don't have time for that. They're trying to make space
the
go up into the X.
This is a tourist attraction.
Exactly, this is the tourists.
The tourists.
Oh, yeah.
They probably recognize Astronaut Abby.
Oh, Astronaut Abby? Yeah, she was awesome.
Do we have anything else in there?
We do not in the comments.
So do we have any questions out here? Because we still have a little bit of time left. Because they gave us a very long panel, which we're very, very grateful for.
Actually, Tom Cossack asked if there's any more candy.
Oh,
there you go, Tom.
Yes. and some Canadian candy back in the booth that I didn't bring.
Oh, and I'm also seeing some amazing Doctor Who cosplayers. So just so you know, by the end of the day, come take a photo with this gorgeous fella.
Yep.
We're here too. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, make sure you do that, especially if you are cosplaying 13, because he has a whole album on the Facebook. Yeah. The Facebook. I'm older than I look. No. That is all 13. So it's all of the 13th Doctor cosplayers. So if you've got a cool twist on it, or you just are proud of it, or it's your first cosplay, come take a photo. Yeah. They're over by the Daleks.
Speaking of Daleks, I wanted to give a big thank you out to the Dalek builders of Florida right here. We've got Dalek. We know there's a Dalek for our panel today out here. And especially, you've heard about us mention the Hanging with Web show. We are a family, well, they are a family of podcasters, and we're proud to be partners with Garrett and the girls over there. But they have a big selection of geekdom as well. So I want to give a big thank you for the gentlemen who hosted our panel from the Hanging with Web show. Thomas, tell them a little bit about yourself so they know where to go.
My name is Thomas. I was born once. That's about all you need to know about me.
He's
Only
a
once,
spy.
though.
I'm sure Thor, your god.
I'm a spy from another realm. My name is Thomas Carter Rochester. I'm an actor, voice actor, podcaster, host. I do it all. Construction worker, engineer, personal trainer. Quite literally, I do it all. You can find Lights, Thunder, Action, my podcast, on the HWWS network. I have a second one that's not on there. So we can't promote them yet. It's about Star Wars, Jess. We'll have you on.
Woo! Hello.
It is Lights, Thunder, Action. We have a panel right here Saturday at noon. We're going to dive into the headlines. And it's basically all the fun stuff. Marvel, Star Wars, DC, the latest happenings in the film industry. And that's Lights, Thunder, Action. You can find us. Come to our booth over there, right on the back of theirs. And I have signs there. We can QR code because we're thinking in the fifth generation of science and technology. We got the QR codes, saving money on business cards. But we have a question coming from the StreamYard that is important to note. It's not the one I was going to ask, so you're all welcome. Hi, Christian and Company. This comes from John Coogan. What a name. Hello, question. Which one of I never learned how to read. Classic monster would you like to see reintroduced?
If you steal it from me, I'll kick you.
Go first.
Can I go first?
Yes, you can go first.
Candyman. I want the Candyman to come back. I want that candy. I want it CGI, and I want to see it now. And I want to see how he gets defeated if he melts away or whatever. I want the candy. I've just been a big fan of that bad guy. I just like a villain made of candy. It could be like Willy Wonka backwards and evil.
I'll go with the Merca. Because we didn't get to see the Merca come back with the sea.
I don't know. What was that thing that popped its head out of the water? Wasn't that Merca? We don't ever know.
You never know.
Dianoga. Yeah. Those are in the pipes in the wrong candle.
Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
That happens a lot on the podcast. Like me, you and Nisha will accidentally start going Star Wars, and it's just anything Clone Wars.
Were you guys as nervous as I was seeing the Jawa kind of hanging around the Batmobile for so long?
I was sitting there. I was like, "Do I know that Jawa?"
Is that Jawa just gonna
It's gonna be up with blocks soon.
Yeah, it's gonna be up with blocks, no wheels.
They didn't look furry enough. So
Yeah.
could have been in a pasta.
I want to see mummies. Like I know they had the mummies in the fourth Doctor one, but like even if they're different mummies, I like Egyptian stuff, and I think we haven't done a lot with Egypt. The only time we got Egypt in New Who was in a whole different reality, and it wasn't even Egypt.
I'm actually going because our friend John just gave his answer.
Ooh,
Arthur, Sutek. We need Sutek back. We will really want to. Yeah, I want Sutek back. I want the monk back. I want the Time Lords back. What do I mean Time Lords? Monk, Ronnie, Romana, Drax, Chancellor Flavia. What are they doing? Did they fight in the Time War, or did they just take a break?
Hey Melanie, has Kristen taken yours yet?
Somehow no. She just went off for 6 of them. I'm like, please don't say that, please don't. But the good thing is I don't know the name of it. And it's that monster that was green and nothing but bubble wrap that the fourth Doctor had to
The
go.
Weirin.
The Weirin. I want them to do that again.
The wasp monsters from Ark in Space.
Yeah, I want the Weirin. I want to see what a budget would do with that monster that isn't bubble wrap.
Thomas, you got to think 1970s kind of classic monsters. Nobody knew about bubble wrap. So when you're converting from human to Weirin, essentially all you have to do is take bubble wrap, wrap it around your hand, spray paint it green, you're a Weirin.
That's amazing.
But nobody knew about this stuff.
That's cheap cosplay right there.
Today, if you do it, you look like you came from the dollar store. Like I'm putting this together at the last minute.
So take that with now budget and make it amazing.
You know what I say? I want to see a cosplayer actually cosplay a Weirin if it were today. See what their interpretation would be if they.
That's a fantastic idea.
There you go, Internet. I got you a homework assignment.
Someone has to do it. So we can get the Scarlet Witch back there to just conjure one
We
out.
should have a competition
Ooh.
one of these days.
One of
at
these
a,
days.
At a real, like, not presently, like, everyone break in somewhere, find some bubble wrap, and let's see what you can come up. No, please don't. I did not condone that.
The other one I would say would be the plant people, Sixth Doctor. I can't remember what they were called. Yes, Burboys. I knew I'm making search for the B. I would love to see them come back.
The Guardians of Gallifrey.
Yes, thank you, Guardians of Gallifrey. You guys are amazing.
We didn't even need to Google that. That was
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I got it right.
Human Matrix.
But yeah, the Burboys. There were a lot of classic monsters that I think if they need their, and that's the thing. I don't want to poke fun at Chipmunk, but I think that's something that we lost in the last couple seasons because what came back, the Daleks, Sea Devils, and that was it. And just like there's a treasure trove of 50 years of enemies, villains, evil Time Lords.
No, we're gonna have the Master again.
To be fair, he was a
really good
Sasha's
master.
an amazing master.
He was a
And
very
Bubble
nice
Wrap's now
Sasha
deadly
Dewan.
all of a sudden.
Sasha Dewan's amazing master.
Sorry, you come
but-
back too much, Dalek. I mean, really, you're every New Year's.
Yeah.
But so quickly after the Missy, I'm like, no, we didn't need a master that quickly. It was great. But
I will give him now whether it was whether he stumbled across it by accident or was intentional. I'm not sure, but Chibnall did come up with some very classic feeling monsters and episode. Like I mean, you had the little spider things, which technically wasn't him because he didn't write the arachnids. Yeah, it's still under his flag, so he can take credit. There you go. And then Orphan 57, the helper, the Mog, half man, half dog.
Orphan 57.
I hate that episode like a plague. Benny needed to die way more painfully than he did. Benny, shut up, woman.
You mean Orphan
But
55?
or Orphan 55, yeah, whatever.
Get your tragic stories straight.
Yeah.
It's like Bruno. We don't talk about Orphan 55. So
I barely remember my own name some days. So thank you. He's just someone you get it. You get it.
It's Steven, right? I'm sorry, but at some point, it's like The Walking Dead. When you start rooting for the walkers to kill everybody, your story is not doing too well. But yeah, Orphan 55.
Yeah, there was some good classic feeling monsters that came out that were new and felt classic, but he failed miserably at what he was going for.
Oh.
They're muttering just off mic, but almost in mic.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite episode ever? No pressure. Just one out of like 40 years.
50th episode, the 50th anniversary special.
To take something different, and can we adjust that from episode to story arc because there's so many that were because the storyline can be 4 episodes. Especially in classics.
So your clocks are going to kick
Just
off.
like
I would say
Star Wars.
classics.
No, because then I would just say Vincent and the Doctor.
Vincent, okay. I would say greatest show in the galaxy. That one was just a ton of fun. With Sylvester McCoy and Sylvester. Yeah, the rapping. Why is this guy rapping? Because it's the 1980s. Rapping Ringmaster, and it was just a fun, off the wall, weird episode. And if you haven't seen it, go find it because it's ridiculous, but brilliantly so.
Jessica.
I know, I'm going to go back to...
Manmore?
No. No, David Tennant saying my name, thank you. No. So I'm going to go back to my first-ish episode, which I love the America arc. I love the Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. I think it has everything. It has history, it has aliens, it has, like... it's the one that pulled me in. It's the one that gave me the questions, and I really like the plot, and I think the way that it ends is really great, and it leaves more questions, and I like it. That's my favorite.
The most un-PC episode of Doctor Who's history, The Talons of Wang Chiang. It is so un-PC. That episode could not be made. What's that? Yeah. Everybody's going like, they make fun of Asians in the episode. And I'm like, I'm Filipino. I don't care. It was a great story. I was just like, I enjoyed it. They poke fun at them. But I mean, it was Tom Baker at his best. I love the scene where, he does the magic trick when he gets into the booth with the knives, and he just turns around and walks out. The scene where, Deep Roy was in that movie. I mean, in that episode, Deep Roy. Yeah, the Peking homunculus. And that creature, that villain, scared the out of me when I was a kid. If you want nightmares, give your 10-year-old Deep Roy in the Talons of Wang Chiang. You will be running out. That will be running out of the building. Any statue that looks like with a big face will run. But and that was what they brought out. Jago and Lightfoot. Jago and Lightfoot, the two characters that came out to become Big Finish people. Unfortunately, I think one of them passed. Yeah, and it was just. But that whole story where Leela becomes Eliza Doolittle, that was just fun. And you watch. It was Lightfoot, right? Lightfoot was in the room with Leela. Where the scene where they're eating dinner, and he's eating with utensils, and she pulls out the rag to start eating it. Like, right? Yeah, and then Lightfoot all of a sudden he's like, I don't know what to do, so he grabs the other leg and starts eating it. It's just like, okay. But it was just it was a Robert Holmes story, firing on all four cylinders, backed up by Tom's acting, wonderful directing, and just a cast of people who were just blown out of this world. It was great. It was a great story.
I think my runner-up would be just 8. The movie. It was. I really enjoyed the story. I mean, to be fair, I've been to a number of those set locations in Vancouver because it was shot in 12 hours away from me, and I'm often out on the Canadian West Coast. So it has some specialty to that, but I think the music was some of the best because it was suddenly meant for a movie. And it was a great tie between what we ended up with in New Who and what we had in Classic.
I have a old Classic Who one. Trial of the Time Lord is a great.
The whole thing.
The whole arc.
All 4 stories.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you were saying story arc, not like one episode. So that whole story arc.
Just give kudos to where you wanted to go. Okay.
Yes, all of them, all 4. Because they're like, what, 15 minutes?
What'd you think of the big reveal when you found out about
I loved it.
the Valiant?
I loved it with the Valiant. That's why it's one of my favorites. Because, well, I guess that's what I like. Is like the completely unknown. But that's but Trial of the Time Lord, if you have not watched it or you've not watched Classic Who, that is a beautiful arc to go and watch because the Valiant is brought up in New Who. And so when you've got those doctors that are saying like, oh, I've had all these names like the Valiant, and you're like, excuse me, what? Are we going there? Are we doing the Valiant? Can we please? So I really hope that they set that up to where we can actually see the Valiant. Like
I don't know. That's a hard.
Capaldi should have done it. I'm just saying, he was in the right age.
Sell,
oh, he was in the right age, and he's tall enough, and like if he had come in with the dark hair, like they could have done it.
You just want Malcolm Tucker to be the 12th Doctor.
Yes. Yes.
This is like 90% of Doctor Who audio will be beep, 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 beep. That's it.
Oh, R2,
yeah. R2D2, yes.
It's for anyone who speaks binary.
Yes.
Beep, bop,
Indeed. So,
I thought that was another Thor yell. Was that a mating call?
what?
Nothing.
It was a droid.
Keep drinking water.
Yeah, I'm the only one who has it. Might as well. You mentioned, favorite story arcs, favorite Doctor, obviously. I'm not going to ask favorite companion because I want to know who's your favorite Doctor companion duo. Duo. Look at this.
I stumped him.
No, it's not that you stumped. It's like I could answer, but I'm like I don't want to.
Do you understand? It's 60 years of companions and doctors. It's like picking your favorite. It's like having 800 kids and picking your favorite one out of the 800. So it's
my knee-jerk one would be the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane, but I'm gonna go with. See, I just got it in there anyway. I'm gonna go with 10 and Donna.
Wait, are we asking duo of like between two companions or duo of Doctor and companion? Which Doctor and companion? Okay.
You can have two
10
companions.
10 and
Yes.
I'm not going to ask the next question I had in my mind. Never mind.
Now I want to know the question.
You don't want to know the question? Because we know the answer.
We know the answer. But yeah, companion and doctor.
I'm gonna twist it ever so slightly and say Time Lord and companion and go with Chang Li and the Master because he was very much a companion.
Okay. Jessica, because I haven't made my mind up.
Act like I have. Honestly, I mean, Donna is just, they have such a good chemistry. Honestly, the two actors have such a good chemistry, it's hard for that not to translate. So I'm going to kind of like set that aside and not take that one because I think it's mainly just the actors that give us that dynamic. It's well written, excellent. I mean, Sarah Jane. Yeah, Sarah Jane. She gets on with all the doctors that she's ever been filmed with, and like honestly, they kept the arc of her relationship with the Doctor for so many years. I think that is like the companion. If there was like one where it's like who is the Doctor's companion, I think Sarah Jane is the companion.
Did you pick a doctor, or are you just picking 6 doctors?
The Doctor is all I
That's the problem with the companions. It can be anybody's companions. So Sarah Jane has been seeing a lot of doctors. So now we have to pair up, 3, 4, 9.
She should have ate some apples.
Because time travel,
Yeah, it's all relative. Christian, have you broken it down yet?
I did. It was mentioned twice.
Oh.
No, I actually, and this is nothing against Elizabeth Sladen, but I think the best Doctor companion duo was Romana 1 and the Fourth Doctor. Because Mary Tam and Tom Baker really played off each other. Throw in John Leeson as K9, that's the cherry on top. And they were just, and it's a shame that Mary Tam only lasted for the Key to Time series, because I could have seen them gone even further. But their play off of each other was kind of fun. The moment where, the Doctor's telling Romana, be careful of traps, and then he walks right into one and goes, and then she just walks right up to him, oh, yeah, I see, it's a primitive little trap, and he's just hanging there and I'm going, those little quirks that Mary and Tom put together. Then you throw in K9, where K9 wants to get out of the TARDIS, and the Fourth Doctor's going, no. And K9's going, I'll be good. He goes, no. Things like that. Just little things. What are you doing? Oh, the Daleks movie.
I wasn't reading.
I mean, we only have about 5 minutes left, so the Daleks is kind of...
Oh, no, I got you. Everybody thank you for joining us. Yes. Thank you for being here. If you get a chance, please, you can join us at our booth. It's in the community center right next to the Dalek Builders, which is where the Daleks go in. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. There you go. We'll give you some stickers. And please, this is the 10th anniversary of the Traveling TARDIS. We couldn't have done this without you, without your support, without everybody here, Melanie, Jessica, Dave. I couldn't have a podcast without them, or it would just be me talking with myself, and that gets boring after a while. But I can talk with Arthur. But it's been an amazing 10 years. It's been an amazing ride, and a lot of people have been very supportive. Thomas here, the Hanging With family, and everybody's been joining. Everybody who's been in the chats. I'm giving you all the chats. Dan, Tom, John. A lot of people have been there. Ramona,
Andrew,
Carl, Donna, yeah, Ramona.
Pop.
You guys are
Matt
all
Pipe, Joseph.
You're just now shouting out names, aren't you?
I am. I'm definitely reading.
Where can people out here see you, Jessica?
Oh. If you're at MegaCon, I'm going to be a lot of times with Saber Guild over in the Star Wars section. If you've got younglings, we do have Padawan training once a day. So it's ages 5 through 12. It's just going to be teaching the Force, lightsaber techniques, and we may have a Sith crash, but we'll see.
Oh, Anakin Skywalker?
No, not that type of youngling training. Oh gosh, your younglings are safe. Oh no.
This got dark.
No Anakins will be allowed in the room.
Just take the microphone away from her.
We have clone troopers guarding them. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke too. No. I'm sorry.
Hey.
Come and check it out.
All 3 people have been subscribed now.
Melody, where can we find you?
Yeah, where are you on the floor? Melody, quick, save
The
us.
way for people trying to murder one another. That's in canon. There's death around all y'all. Anyway, I'm in Artist Alley, booth 365. Good luck trying to find it because all the chalk on the floor is gone. But I'm not at that pillar, but the one next to it. So let's say if we're counting pillars, I'm the second pillar over there. So there you go. The north pillar.
The north pillar near the Artist Alley sign, that's also to the north. By the way, in case you're wondering, north, that way. I know a lot of people don't know cardinal directions.
I think it has it on the big wall that says south and north. Usually people say north and south.
If you didn't think MegaCon didn't have enough of us, tonight we have another panel at 8 o'clock in room S, South 320E. Doctor Who deserves a spin-off. And we'll be discussing about characters and people on the show who directly deserve the spin-off. And just like the StreamYard, as you can see online, well, you will be seeing online if you haven't been watching on the YouTube or the Facebook. Yeah, people interact, and we try to interact back. And that was the great thing about the Traveling TARDIS. When I started this, the whole idea of the Traveling TARDIS started because 2 women at a panel felt uncomfortable about talking about how they felt about something that was going on. The panel was about Jodie Whittaker, and there were 2 women who refused to not speak during the panel. They stood in behind the room at the whole panel and waited until everybody left, and they came up right to me and said, "Christian, we think we can trust you. We want to tell you something." I'm like, "Whoa, I'm in big trouble, aren't I?" And they proceeded to say we did not want to say that we didn't like the idea of Jodie Whittaker. And I told them, I said, "Listen, this is the way that the geekdom should be. If you don't feel comfortable about it, you have 2 choices, but I give you this option. Go watch it, give her 3 episodes, and if you don't like what you see, I gave you a chance. But I'm not going to tell you to leave. I'm going to tell you I'll see you in 3 to 4 years when she regenerates."
Okay.
Because every Whovian should be brought back. Not every Doctor is going to be their favorite, but we're all Whovians alike. We should all respect one another. We all have differences, and that's a cool thing. Not only about the Whoniverse, but about the geekdom as well. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe. Go and join us. We're going to be moving back until 8 o'clock when we go to their panel. And I want to thank you for joining us. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I appreciate you coming. And thank you all for joining us. And I want to thank MegaCon for bringing us out here. Have a great night, folks. We're going to see you all this weekend.
Absolutely. This has been the 10th anniversary of The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. We'll see you all around. Come join us over there in the 1100 section of the booths. I'll see y'all Saturday for my panel in this general vicinity.
Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause for The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Stick around. In just a couple minutes, we've got a legendary comic book famous gentleman, Mr. Jim Shooter, hosted by Mr. Comics with Bueller. So please stick around for the Jim Shooter Q&A starting in about